All right, it looks like the 2025 recruiting class for West Virginia football is pretty much set. Could be just a bit of movement later, but maybe not. Right now, 21 commits. So this video is a 21 commit salute. I'll get to that. And those of you who are familiar with the channel know that I'm going to say, this is West Virginia football going deep. I'm Forrest Poston, and possibly should be committed. To what remains the question. Meanwhile, I do hope you will share, subscribe, click comment, click thumbs up, or comment and click thumbs up, click the subscription bell, tell your friends, and, well, just about anybody else you may know, particularly if they are a West Virginia football fan. Now then, the class has 21 players, 10 on offense, 11 on defense, very balanced. Didn't quite look that way going into June when we had, I think, like 7 on offense and 1 or none on defense. And June, they hit hard, they hit fast, and they hit precisely. It was all planned, and they executed the plan as close to perfection as we could hope to get. They didn't get all of the guys that they most wanted. They got a bunch of them, and they followed up with the guys that, second choice, but good choice. We are not talking about guys who were committed just to fill a spot. These are guys who are expected to play, and expected to play very well. Looking at offense, we got Scotty Fox. He committed early. And they just keep getting the quarterbacks to commit earlier and earlier. We already have McQuarter for 2026. We're talking to 2027, and I don't know, we may have some offers out past that. I forget. Also got DeAndre Desanor at running back. He's good. He's very good. Considered a 4-star some services. Receivers, we picked up Jaleel Hall and Tariq Mallory for some very tall, wide-out guys. Running about 4.5 speed. Fast, they're not burners exactly, but fast enough to get downfield in a hurry. Not necessarily a lot of moves so far, because they weren't asked to do that, but I have a feeling they will develop. And if they're running 4.5 now, I imagine Joseph will get them down closer to 4.4, and that's fast. Tyshawn Dews, Montaven Quisenberry. Dews could play wide. Slot more likely. Quisenberry is, he'll be slot, but he will be all over the field once he gets the ball. That kid has moves. He's going to be a real joy to watch. Then we got Jackson Aquardi at tight end. Another 6'7" tight end, frequently splits out in high school. So we should be building the model that we have now with Cole Taylor. Then on the offensive line, Gavin Crawford and Iden Buchanan, both out of Maryland, same school at Good Counsel. Same as, you may remember the name Kyle Altuner, I would suspect. And Thomas Barr, who had an injury and slipped through a lot of the recruiting, but I like his sophomore film. Now, Crawford and Buchanan we're talking big guys. I mean, Crawford 6'3", 300 pounds, he's big, and then Buchanan 6'8", 310. Now, looking at their film, these guys are still a bit raw. I compared them to Altuner and a guy named Wyatt Milam. Went back and looked at his high school film. Both of those were more controlled in their movements at this point. Crawford and Buchanan really seems like they haven't quite grown into their bodies. They're a little bit gawky. That's probably to be expected. I don't know how their growth has developed, but they are fast, they are aggressive. I don't like how they use their hands, or sometimes how they don't use their hands, and I'm kind of curious why there weren't some holding flags flown in those highlights I was watching. But these are guys who are going to be very good 2 years down the road. Defensive side, again, not a lot of gaps. We picked up Ramondo Johnson to play edge, Taylor Brown, Amir Leonard Jean Charles, and Evan Powell for the line. And let's see here, Michael Hasty at linebacker. Defensive backs, we picked up Zaw Jackson. He's one of the 2 West Virginia players. Sirius Stenyard, Chris Filippo specifically to play spear. Sammy Etienne, Elgin Sessions, and Terrence Edwards. Out of that group, Edwards and Charles look to be the early players and impact players. The other guys might take an extra year to develop, but again, we're looking at lots of talent and good size. Hasty also plays running back in high school, and you can tell that when he's at linebacker. He moves better than most. Filippo, we're recruiting specifically for spear now, which is, we kind of took some shots at that, but mostly it's been recruiting a guy who might play linebacker or safety and moving him to spear. Hasn't worked out as well as we'd hope, but no. I think this year with Burks it's going to be top notch. We've got Zay Jennings and now Filippo. Our guys in the defensive backs, we're looking 5'11" to 6'1", so size should not be an issue. Now, going to do a little something here that will require me to turn the computer back on so I can look at my charts. That will cause some glare on the glasses, and I apologize for that. But one of the things I particularly like about how Brown recruits is not just the planning, but the precision. He recruits to avoid gaps. It is a very precise, fill things out. He doesn't just recruit for speed. He doesn't just recruit for size and then move guys around after he gets them. A little of that, of course, but even that's usually within the plans. In the past, both Rodriguez and Holgerson, their recruiting was an issue because it was kind of hit and miss. If they got the right guys on a given year, big season. And of course, with Holgerson, it was especially, using transfers. But if after that big year or big 2 years or whatever, next thing you knew, you might very well have a big hole. which we saw especially at quarterback under Holgerson. If you go back, not the first year after Rodriguez left, but the year after that, look at the line. He left behind a very experienced line, but behind them, nothing. You didn't have juniors or even, third-year sophomores stepping up to fill the spots. You were looking at freshmen, redshirt freshmen, that sort of thing. And not, you didn't have 2 or 3 guys ready to play center. You had one guy who transferred. It was not good. And of course, wide receivers, Rodriguez, recruiting was, not quite non-existent, but it wasn't that good, especially in the later stretch. So now let's take a look at the defense. I've laid it out here like a depth chart, and you look there across the safeties: Sessions, Etienne, and Edwards. That's a very good group, no gaps. Corners: Stenyard, Jackson. Linebackers, only recruited one. Hasty, he's good. So we've got the question mark there. Will we take another linebacker? Maybe not, because it's not a position of need. We aren't graduating anybody at linebacker this year. Can't always predict the old transfer portal routine, but for 3 years we're set at linebacker. Maybe 4 years we're set at linebacker. So you don't have to bring in 2 linebackers every year, or you end up with too many linebackers and guys transfer. So if they find a guy who's really good, who really wants to be here, and who fits really well in the locker room, they'll take him. But they're not going to be losing sleep looking for him. Then we've got Johnson as edge rusher, Spur more or less, and Filippo at Spear. And, I think you do kind of tend to take one each year for those if you can. Obviously, there's only, of course, with Spur, you can have 2 of them on the field at the same time. We tinkered with that last year. I think we use it a lot this year if you have the right guys. And then you look across the defensive line. 3 spots, 3 players: Brown, Charles, Powell. We've got different types. So we are covered. Now, looking over at the offensive side, 2 question marks to start the offensive line. You have 5 spots. We've recruited 3 players. And again, you don't necessarily want to recruit 5 linemen every class. You end up with too many. But depending on the situation, 3 to 4. Right now we're at 3. Barr, I think, is likely to play center. Crawford guard, Buchanan tackle. So we haven't over-recruited at any one position, but much like linebacker, there's a spot for an offensive lineman if there's one out there who is good enough and a good enough fit. And we might take, they're still looking at a particular defensive lineman. We've got the 3 spots full, but again, good enough, you take one. Accuarty at tight end. And we have a loaded tight end room. Different types, different levels of development. We do not need to take 2. 4 receivers, 2 guys who are quite tall, one who is medium height and one who is that small, unbelievably quick guy who, I mean, yeah, if you go watch his highlights on Huddle, the one that says 2025 is the one to watch. That's confusing because how do you have highlights from 2025 in 2024? But it's titled that way because he is a 2025 recruit. But you get to watch him make defenders run into each other, make defenders fall down. Kick return, punt return, wildcat, halfback, couple of halfback passes. I mean, he's a sleeper. Not because West Virginia was sleeping on him, but because a lot of other schools, and I think the ratings, and where I list ratings in here, these particular ones are taken from 24/7, just because that's where I was when I was looking some of these up to remind myself. But there's really, I mean, the precision. Again, Scotty Fox got a quarterback. We're taking one quarterback a year. Won't be able to keep them all. It's just not, that's not going to work because crap happens. Some guys don't develop. Some guys get hurt. Some guys get homesick. Some guys just aren't patient enough, or they get leapfrogged by a younger guy and hit the portal. But anytime that happens, we're still going to be fine. We'd have to lose at least 3 quarterbacks in a year, I think, to be hurting. Even this year, Green, Marchiol, and we do have Ryder Burton. Hasn't played a lot, but it is his second year, so he's been around a bit. And then we'll be working on from there. We will always have 2, 3, 4 guys, scholarship players, high quality, who have the talent. And most years we'll have at least a backup with some experience. And looks like most years we will take 1 running back. They are still talking about using 2. And, I mean, dividing the carriers. We're not, Brown does not want to have a 30, 35 carry workhorse. Spreading the work around has been most effective. So that's the way it plays down. Plays out, plays however you want to call it. 21 recruits, which really is almost a full offense and defense. And it looks like if we get all 21 guys to sign, it'll be a very good class, even if we don't add anybody. Will any of these players flip out? Maybe. Especially, we've got a couple of the guys who were getting more interest late, and teams will continue to push. So some of those guys might decide to flip. But Brown and his staff have been very good at targeting the right players of late, getting them, and keeping them. So I look forward to seeing these guys play. Of course, I'm also looking forward to seeing our current guys play, and that is coming up pretty soon, just a very few weeks. 24 days to Penn State, something like that? No, that can't be right. It's got to be a little bit more than that. 40 days? Yeah, I think that's more like 40-something days. About 2 weeks to the start of spring camp, I believe. and we will have some more things to talk about. Hopefully, Coach Brown will do a press conference right before camp starts and update us on a few things, and I will update you. All right, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. All handful of people who are watching. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot, and so long.